Guardians of the Galaxy is the fourth movie in Phase 2 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the first to feature an entire plethora of new characters. Now, this movie might have been the biggest risk of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that is simply in the fact that no one out there in the general public really knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were. If you ask people who aren't even Marvel fans if they knew who Iron Man was, or Spider-Man was, or the Hulk was, or anyone like that, they'd probably be able to give you a general idea of who they are. On the other side, if you ask anyone who the Guardians of the Galaxy were, they'd tell you, who? I mean, I can tell you right now, I was one of those people. So as a result, I didn't really know what to expect or what to look for when I went into this movie. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I walked out of it wanting to know a lot more about these characters because this movie was pretty freaking awesome. So the movie opens up on Earth in 1988. You see a young Peter Quill. He's in the hospital because his mother is dying, which already right here makes you feel for Peter Quill. I mean, he's this young kid. His mother is dying in front of him. There's nothing he can do to help her. He also doesn't have a father to turn to because his father was described as some sort of alien race that was never really a part of his life. It eventually gets to a point where Quill just storms out of the hospital. He's crying, he's enraged, it's the worst day of his life. And to make matters worse, after he storms out of the hospital, he gets abducted by the spaceship by a group of space pirates led by a guy named Yondu. Yeah, these aliens, they basically raised him as one of their own, and as a result, he grew up to be kind of like this Han Solo type smuggler person. So now the movie flashes forward 26 years later. Peter Quill now goes by the outlaw named Star-Lord. He's played by Chris Pratt, and he's still basically stealing things that he can sell for money. Now, I want to get right into Chris Pratt as Star-Lord for this movie. Chris Pratt, he kills it in this movie as Star-Lord. I mean, he's funny, he's clever, he can kick ass when he needs to kick ass, which we already get a brief glimpse of when he discovers this orb on the planet Morag. These aliens arrive, they try to intercept him and take the orb from him, but through all of his weapons and his equipment, he's able to escape them, take down most of them. Dude also has a pretty sick spaceship, I'm gonna say that right now. However, at the same time, Yondu has discovered that Star-Lord has absolutely no intention of bringing this orb back to the pirates, so now he's placing a bounty on Star-Lord's head. So now we flash forward a little bit later to the villain of this movie, Ronan. He's this guy of Kree descent who is on a mission to destroy the planet Xandar. That's because the planets Xandar and Kree, they used to be in a big war against each other, but eventually came to a peace treaty between each other. But that's not enough for Ronan. No, he wants Xandar to suffer and die. So he's actually made this deal with Thanos that if Ronan can bring this orb to Thanos, Thanos will destroy Xandar for him. So with that, Ronan sends one of Thanos' adopted daughters, Gamora, to take down Star-Lord to get the orb. Gamora is played by Zoe Saldana. She was taken into Thanos' custody after Thanos killed her family in front of her. And from there, he basically tortured her and rebuilt her into an assassin, which right out the gate, I thought made her a really interesting character, which I thought was great for this movie. So now we get to the planet Xandar itself. Star-Lord is going to try to see if he can sell this orb for some money. Unfortunately, he's denied any payment for the orb, and as a result, Gamora shows up, she attacks Star-Lord, and she takes the orb, and now the two are chasing after each other for it. Where we also get introduced to the next two Guardians, Groot and Rocket. Groot's this big humanoid tree. He's voiced by Vin Diesel, who only says 3 words, I am Groot. And then you have Rocket. He's voiced by Bradley Cooper. He's just this anthropomorphic raccoon. And getting right into Rocket, this dude fucking stole the entire movie. This dude is hilarious. He's really smart, especially when it comes to weaponry. He's sarcastic as hell. And he's also an asshole, but he's a very likable asshole. So the two of them eventually spot Star-Lord. They know there's a bounty on him, and as a result, they want to try to capture him and bring him to Yondu. But unfortunately, it all creates huge chaos, and eventually the Nova Corps arrive to arrest the 4 of them. They'll get thrown into this prison in space where they eventually meet the 5th member, Drax the Destroyer. And this dude is on a hell-bent revenge mission against Ronan. And that's because some time ago, Ronan killed his wife and his daughter. However, while they're all in prison, Gamora tells everyone that her true intention with the orb is to sell it to a buyer who's willing to buy it for a lot of money. Rocket reveals he knows a way to escape from this prison, which he's done several times, and as a result, they all agree to work together so they can all get some money out of this. Drax is also able to convince them to tag along because he doesn't want any money. He just wants to kill Ronan. So now we officially get to the prison escape scene, and this scene's just awesome. They're all trying to do a million different things at once. All of the guys are trying to take them down as they try to. However, Groot and Rocket are able to take a majority of them down simply because Groot's this giant tree who apparently can't be destroyed, and Rocket's just armed with a really big gun. But what was really great about this scene is the humor that was brought towards it, particularly from Drax. Because what's great about Drax is his alien species, they don't understand metaphors. Everything to them is taken completely seriously. It leads to a lot of miscommunication among everybody, and it's just hilarious. So they're all in this little spacecraft. Their goal is to eventually take off so they can get to Quill's ship. And then the rest of the guys show up. They proceed to shoot at this thing one at a time, before eventually saying, alright, let's start counting down to when we all officially fire at once to destroy it. Because, you know, they can't just fire immediately and all at once because they need to give the heroes the chance to escape. They all eventually do escape, and they go to this little criminal outpost in space known as Nowhere. And here's where they meet with the Collector. You know, the guy we saw in the mid-credit scene from Thor: The Dark World. And here he explains to the group what exactly this thing is. And he tells them that this thing is one of the Infinity Stones, and it's basically going to destroy anything and anyone who isn't wielding it. One of the Collector's tormented assistants, she tries to grab it to use it against him, but because she is mortal, it only destroys her. And Drax, completely obsessed with trying to destroy Ronan, goes so far to send out a message telling Ronan where they are, and they all come to Nowhere. And not only is Ronan able to defeat Drax, Groot, and Rocket, but he's also able to get his hands on the orb for the Infinity Stone. In the meantime, Thanos' other daughter, Nebula, she has destroyed Gamora's ship that she was trying to fight in and also escape in. She's officially left in space to die, but luckily Star-Lord shows up and he gives Gamora his helmet so that she can breathe. And then even more luckily, Yondu arrives to take the two of them onto his ship. That's only so he can beat the shit out of Quill for betraying him. In the meantime, Ronan has taken the Infinity Stone, he's combined it with his Warhammer so he can harness and use its power. He makes contact with Thanos, he tells him that he doesn't need him anymore, and now he's just gonna use the stone to destroy Xandar himself. Eventually, however, the group is now able to reunite, and Quill is also able to convince not just Yondu's crew, but the Nova Corps that they can still stop Ronan before Xandar is destroyed. But what I love most about this moment is you see Peter Quill organize his group together to tell them that we've done bad things, we've lost a lot in our life, but this is our chance to be something great. This is our chance to go from being people who were viewed as assholes to becoming heroes. The whole group is on board with it, the Nova Corps is on board with it, and Yondu is also on board with it if he can get the stone afterwards so he can sell it. So now we get a final conflict between all these heroes against Ronan, and it's awesome. They know that they cannot let Ronan's ship touch the ground because the second that he sets foot on Xandar, he will be able to destroy it. And what's really cool is you see the Nova Corps on all their ships, they're all able to form this kind of barrier around the ship to keep it from doing anything, but they forget Ronan has a fucking Infinity Stone. He's eventually able to use it to destroy all of them. But all is not completely lost. We see that Gamora is able to defeat Nebula in a really intense and really cool hand-to-hand combat fight between the two of them, while Star-Lord, Groot, Rocket, and Drax make their way towards Ronan after they kill pretty much his entire army. It's intense, it's awesome, it's fun to watch, and at some points, it's actually really hilarious. Unfortunately, Ronan's power is too much for them to stop, and sure enough, he's able to make his way to Xandar's surface. However, as the ship is coming to crash down on Xandar, the group knows they're not going to be able to survive this crash. As a result, Groot uses his power to form like this giant nest around the whole group to protect them. Rocket pleads with Groot not to do this because he knows that it will only end up in Groot dying, but he decides to go through with this because we are Groot. And this moment I thought worked out great for this movie, simply because it was very emotional, but it went along with what this movie has been doing throughout it. It knew how to use its funny moments perfectly when it needed to, and it also knew how to use its emotional moments perfectly when it needed to. The movie could be different tones when it needed to, and that's awesome. And just before he can slam his hammer into the surface, he sees Star-Lord just singing and dance-offing against him. It's funny as hell, and the look on Ronan's face is what anyone would have. He's just all like, what the fuck are you doing? However, Star-Lord reveals this is all just a big distraction, and in the meantime, Drax uses this gun to destroy Ronan's hammer, and as a result, Star-Lord is able to grab onto the stone. However, strangely enough, as Star-Lord is holding onto the stone, it's not destroying him. The rest of the members of the group, they're able to grab onto him so they're not impacted by the stone. With that, they declare themselves the Guardians of the Galaxy, and Quill uses the stone to destroy Ronan. So with that, all is well, Xandar is saved. However, Yondu, he still wants to sell that stone, and with that, Quill is unfortunately forced to hand the container containing the stone over to him. That's actually bullshit. Star-Lord just switched out the stone into another container, so it's all good. The group knows that the stone is much safer in the protection of the Nova Corps, so therefore they drop it off there. For their heroics, the Nova Corps expunges their criminal records. They also give Star-Lord his ship back. The Guardians then set off for adventures unknown, while in the meantime, a little stick that was left from Groot when he sacrificed himself is starting to grow back in this little pot, showing that he's gonna come back to life. So all in all, Guardians of the Galaxy was an awesome movie. The characters in this movie were all awesome. Everyone who played each character did it perfectly. The movie had a great story, awesome visual effects, really fun action scenes. The soundtrack to this movie was great. I love that they threw in a lot of these classic rock and pop music for it. That was awesome. The humor in this movie, oh my god, the humor was great. A lot of people have called this the best movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I can't go that far, but I will say it is the funniest movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This honestly might have been the funniest movie of 2014 for me. I promise you, there were just so many moments where I was gut-busting laughing in this movie. I wasn't really expecting that going in. It was a great surprise. I have but one gripe with this movie, and it is kind of a big one, and that is the villain Ronan. Is he a really bad guy? Yes. Does he do what he needs to do in this movie well? Yes. He does, however, suffer from the same flaw that Malekith suffered from Thor: The Dark World, and that is the fact that he's just not that memorable of a villain. He's not the next Loki or Winter Soldier, you know, someone that I'm just gonna remember for years and years to come. And part of that is a little bit because now that we have seen Thanos in this movie and we know he's out there, that's what we're really looking forward to. So I guess as a result, Marvel knew they didn't need to make Ronan the next great villain, but I still would have liked him to be a bit more memorable. But either way, this is still a great movie that really put the Guardians of the Galaxy on the map for everyone, and it got everyone super excited for what else is coming with them. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.